do you know when you're witnessing the emergence of a truly great Formula One talent? Not just a quick driver or a race winner, but the kind of prodigy who might define an era. A generational talent. In theory, the sign should be bloody obvious. Sky-high expectations at a young age, record-breaking junior results, jaw-dropping drives against older competition, and glowing endorsements from legends. So, that begs the question, what makes Oliver Bearman the transcendent talent some claim he is? And is he really worth the hype? Or are optimistic fans setting him up to join the long list of promising prodigies who couldn't meet impossible expectations?
This is Oliver Bearman.
Long before he donned Ferrari red, Oliver James Bearman was just a motorsport mad kid from Essex, chasing speed like it was second nature. Born in 2005, young Ollie began karting at age 7, and it didn't take long for those watching trackside to whisper that something was special about this boy. Through his early teens, Bearman racked up trophies across Britain and Europe, culminating in multiple national titles and a victory at the prestigious IAME International Final in 2019. By 2020, at just 15, he was making the jump to car racing. His first taste of single-seaters came in Formula 4, and to say he flourished would be an understatement. In 2020, as a rookie German and Italian F4, he snagged wins and podiums. By 2021, he utterly dominated. That year, Bearman achieved a rare feat, winning 2 major Formula 4 championships in the same season, capturing 17 race victories combined across Italian F4, 11 wins, and Germany's ADAC F4, 6 wins. Ferrari's driver academy came calling. By the end of 2021, Oliver Bearman was signed to Ferrari's junior program, a clear sign that Maranello saw him as a potential star. Here was a British teenager piling up junior titles and now backed by Ferrari's academy, much like Charles Leclerc a few years prior.
And can you just give us some insight as viewers? What are the drivers actually doing to keep yourselves ahead in the game?
The step up to FIA Formula 3 in 2022 was Bearman's big test. Racing against the world's best teenagers, he would either validate the hype or fall back into the pack. Bearman did not shrink under the spotlight, he bloody shone. Driving for Powerhouse Prema, the 17-year-old rookie immediately became a title contender. He scored a victory and 8 podiums, entering the final round with a shot at the championship. Bearman came tantalizingly close to snatching the F3 crown, ultimately finishing 3rd, just a handful of points behind champion Victor Martins. Formula 2 in 2023 was where things got interesting. On raw pace, Bearman was electric. He won 4 F2 races in his maiden season, an almost unheard of tally for a rookie. That's as many wins as George Russell scored in his title-winning F2 year. In Baku, Bearman dominated both sprint and feature race, a double victory that seasoned observers still reference as proof of his ceiling, regardless of what happened afterwards. But the consistency needed for a championship wasn't there yet. His 2023 season was marred by errors and misfortune that left him only 6th in the points. He could be blazingly fast one weekend and off-colour the next. He had some highs and some lows to be ironed out. Clearly the best rookie of 2023, but still prone to mistakes. His 2024 F2 campaign proved even more challenging. Prema's form dipped, technical gremlins struck, and despite adding a few more wins, inconsistency persisted. The team struggled to adapt to the new machinery, which made both Bearman and his highly rated teammate Andrea Kimi Antonelli look like damp squibs in comparison. By mid-2024, the hype had cooled slightly. The talent was clearly there, but Bearman hadn't dominated F2 like Russell or Oscar Piastri did as rookies. Was he truly the next generational star, or just another very good junior who might plateau?
Ollie, are you with us?
I see my team.
It's March 2024, Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Jeddah. Bearman is there as an F2 driver when Carlos Sainz falls ill with appendicitis. Ferrari needs an immediate stand-in, and the call goes out to their 18-year-old reserve. This wasn't any debut. It was a race seat in Ferrari red on one of the fastest street circuits with a couple hours' notice. Bearman only learned at 1:30 p.m. Friday that he'd be racing later that day. "It's better like this, you don't have time to think about it," Ferrari boss Fred Vasseur quipped. Despite just 1 hour of preparation, Bearman immediately looked at home. He was throwing the Ferrari around and exploring the limits from FP3 onwards. When qualifying came, he advanced through Q1 and came within 0.036 seconds of Q3, nearly knocking out 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton. He qualified P11, honestly an astounding result. Even more impressive was his composure off-track. Instead of celebrating P11, Bearman expressed disappointment about the small mistake that cost him Q3, some ultra-high standards from an 18-year-old. Then came race day. Over 50 grueling laps, Bearman drove like a seasoned pro. He kept his nose clean at the chaotic start, settled into a rhythm and climbed into the points. His decisive overtakes caught everyone's eye, and his lap times improved until he was matching Charles Leclerc's pace. When Hamilton and Lando Norris attacked him in the closing laps on fresh tyres, Bearman didn't flinch. He held them both off and crossed the line P7, scoring points on debut and beating 2 of Britain's biggest F1 stars. The praise was immediate. Leclerc called it exceptional and super impressive. Hamilton waited by Bearman's car to give him a handshake and hug, noting he himself hadn't been ready for F1 at 18. Even Max Verstappen acknowledged it was very impressive. Veteran journalist David Tremayne called it the most accomplished rookie debut he'd witnessed in 36 years. Bearman became the 3rd youngest F1 starter ever and the youngest driver in Ferrari's history. For a moment, the hype felt vindicated. But one race doesn't make a career.
You tell me, did I do enough?
Impressive. Well done, Ollie.
Bearman's debut set off a chain reaction. His path to a full-time F1 seat suddenly looked much shorter. Ferrari boss Vasseur remained measured. Let's not draw conclusions from one weekend, but admitted Bearman had been fantastic, very solid, very calm on the radio. For Bearman, life wouldn't return to normal. Over the next few months, he balanced his F2 campaign with increasing F1 commitments, taking part in FP1 sessions for Haas as a reserve driver. Then came another call-up. Kevin Magnussen received a 1-race ban due to penalty points, so Haas tapped Bearman for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. If his Ferrari outing was a fairy tale, his Haas cameo was gritty confirmation that Jeddah was no fluke. He qualified 11th again, out-qualifying veteran teammate Nico Hülkenberg. In the race he finished 10th, scoring another point and beating Hülkenberg to the flag. Thanks to late chaos, Bearman became the first driver ever to score points for 2 different teams in his first 2 Grand Prix starts, something even Hamilton and Verstappen never had the chance to do. Haas was impressed. Team principal Komatsu called the youngster the total package, and in July 2024 they signed Bearman to a multi-year deal starting in 2025. At 19, he'd be on the F1 grid as a full-time driver, barely 2.5 years after his first car race. His 2024 had one more surprise. When Magnussen withdrew from the Brazilian Grand Prix due to illness, Bearman subbed in again. This was more mixed. He performed well in the sprint but had a chaotic main race in wet conditions, finishing 12th after incidents and penalties. By the year's end, the stage was set. Bearman would partner experienced Esteban Ocon at Haas in 2025, while Ferrari brought in Lewis Hamilton alongside Leclerc. The dominoes had positioned Bearman as a key piece of F1's future, potentially Ferrari's next star incubating at their customer team.
Enough to challenge for the points, but decent, and unfortunate to finish, to not finish today.
The 2025 season couldn't have started worse. At Australia, Bearman endured a nightmare debut weekend as a full-time driver. In FP1, he pushed too hard, touched grass at high speed, and suffered a heavy crash that demolished his Haas. The damage was so severe he missed FP2 while the team rebuilt the car. Then in FP3, he spun into the gravel on his first flying lap, A gearbox issue in qualifying left him starting from the pit lane. He felt guilty about doubling his mechanic's workload. Team boss Komatsu admitted they were shocked by the ragged first outing, but Bearman immediately rebounded. As the season progressed, a clear pattern emerged in Bearman's performances. His single-lap pace was genuinely impressive. He consistently closed the qualifying gap to experienced teammates and often had the upper hand on Saturdays. By mid-season, he'd reached Q3 at Suzuka and qualified a brilliant 8th at Silverstone. However, 10th-place grid penalty for a red flag violation in FP3 dropped him to P18 on the starting grid. Even Monaco saw strong one-lap pace before a penalty for overtaking under red flags sent him to the back. Race day told a different story though. His conversion rate lagged far behind Ocon's consistency. The veteran delivered 5 top 10 finishes by the summer break and sat 10th in the championship with 27 points. Bearman, meanwhile, had secured points in just 3 races, a hat-trick from China to Bahrain, and found himself 19th with 8 points. But the raw pace was there. In China, he stormed from P17 to P8 after post-race disqualifications, executing a memorable double overtake on a Red Bull and Alpine that had him exuberantly shouting "Ciao" on the radio.
Ciao. Nice one, Ollie.
Perhaps nothing summed up Bearman's season better than his streak of 4 consecutive P11 finishes, tantalizingly close to points each time. At Silverstone, despite starting 18th due to another red flag penalty, sliding into the pit lane entry, he charged through a chaotic wet race to P11. He survived a spin after contact with Yuki and even late contact with Ocon, yet emerged as the only rookie to see the checkered flag in treacherous conditions. The head-to-head battle with Ocon revealed Bearman's development. At mid-season, Ocon led their qualifying duel 8-6 and race finishes 9-5, but the gaps were shrinking. More importantly, their relationship flourished. Ocon called it the best of his career, praising Bearman's lack of politics and describing him as bringing hooligan passion to the team. And, by the way, I've made an entire video about Ocon and his absolutely wild route to Formula 1. You should check it out. And if you made it this far into the video, don't forget to subscribe as I'm trying to hit 35,000 subscribers by September. Subscribe!
Not quite enough pace to fight the Williams or the RBs.
All of this leads us back to the central puzzle. Is Oliver Bearman generational? In F1, generational means drivers who combine exceptional skill, record-breaking precocity, and championship-caliber results that set them apart. Think Schumacher, Hamilton, Verstappen. To be generational, Bearman would have to rise above a cohort that's exceedingly strong. Charles Leclerc had a flawless junior career and immediately won races for Ferrari. George Russell dominated the junior categories and dragged a backmarker Williams to results. Oscar Piastri swept F3 and F2 titles. Max Verstappen was winning F1 races at 18 and is now rewriting record books. Where does Bearman stand? On pure junior record, he's a notch below the Leclerc, Russell, Piastri tier. He didn't win F2 or F3 championships, but he did something none of them managed. He made a splash in F1 at 18, delivering a performance few rookies in history have matched. Hamilton marveled that at 18 he himself was nowhere near ready for F1. Verstappen is the only recent comparison, debuting that young, though his first race ended in retirement. Not many drivers could jump into an unfamiliar car and match Leclerc's pace over 50 laps as Bearman did in Jeddah. History reminds us that generational labels are handed out too freely. Since 2000, many drivers were hyped as the next Schumacher. Button became champion, but not generational. Hülkenberg just scored his podium this year. Van Dorn floundered at McLaren. The point is, potential is just potential. No matter how many we claim to be generational, once in a generation truly means once in a generation. Right now, Verstappen owns that mantle. If he's the guy for the era, there might not be another true generational for some time.
He was the first one to see me after the race. He, shook my hand and congratulated me.
Bearman doesn't need to match Max's precocity to succeed, but to be considered the same once-in-a-generation ilk, he'd need to eventually beat the likes of Verstappen and contend for championships. Ferrari clearly sees Bearman as potentially their Verstappen down the line. By nurturing him through Haas, they likely envision him returning to Maranello when Hamilton retires. That comes with massive expectations. Ferrari drivers carried the weight of Tifosi hype like nowhere else. Hamilton's difficult adaptation to Ferrari has inadvertently strengthened Bearman's position. The 7-time champion joined on a multi-year deal through 2026, but his struggles in 2025, no podiums in the first 14 rounds and visible difficulty adapting to the SF25 have raised questions about the partnership's longevity. At 40, Hamilton's time is naturally limited, and poor results could accelerate his retirement timeline. This creates a fascinating dynamic for Bearman. Ferrari's current plan likely envisions him developing at Haas through 2026, then stepping up to replace Hamilton for 2027 when the veteran turns 42. But if Hamilton grows disillusioned or Ferrari's patience wanes, that timeline could compress dramatically. A realistic scenario sees Hamilton departing after 2025 if results don't improve, potentially opening a Ferrari seat for Bearman a year earlier than planned. The 2026 regulation changes add another layer of complexity. The new engine formula and likely aerodynamic tweaks could shuffle the competitive order entirely. For Bearman, this presents both opportunity and timing considerations. If Haas nails the 2026 package with Ferrari support, he might suddenly find himself in a competitive car, dramatically raising his stock. Conversely, if Ferrari views Bearman as part of their new era, they may want him in-house when those rules kick in. At 21 in 2026, he'll have the perfect combination of youth and F1 experience, old enough to be seasoned, young enough to adapt quickly to new technical demands. Some analysis suggests the 2026 rules might level the playing field for newer generation drivers, as established advantages get reset. The regulation change also serves as a soft deadline for Ferrari. By 2026-27, they'll need to decide whether Bearman is part of their works team future or risk losing their academy product to rivals like the incoming Audi works team, which will be seeking top young talent to lead their project. Assembling all the stats, stories and perspectives, the truth about Oliver Bearman is more nuanced than those craving a definitive label might like. Is he really worth the hype? The most honest answer, so far, yes, but his story is still in its early chapters. His junior career was littered with championships and remarkable feats. His F1 debut was pure teenage fantasy. You don't earn Driver of the Day and finish P7 for Ferrari unless you have something special. The way he's handled himself, the maturity, work ethic, flashes of brilliance all suggest a young driver with the ingredients to become a top F1 competitor. Even Hamilton and Leclerc are convinced. On the flip side, Bearman isn't running roughshod over his opposition the way a truly generational talent often does. Max by age 20 was winning races regularly. Bearman at 20 is scrapping for points in a midfield car. His occasional mistakes remind us that talent needs refinement. I do think he develops into an excellent driver, but not an all-time great. A career like Sainz would still be successful, even if it falls short of generational hype. Comparing Bearman to past prodigies, he stacks up well at similar stages. His trajectory could mirror Leclerc's path from Sauber to Ferrari. Verstappen had more raw pace initially, but Bearman arguably has a calmer head than Max did at 18. Do you think we'll see Bearman at Ferrari in 2026? That pairing with Leclerc would be absolutely wild. Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.